So when we look at the writing process, there's, again, some steps that we need to take for it. So the first step is brainstorming. And sometimes this step is something that people skip if they already start off with an idea, if they already know this is what I'm going to write about. But if you're trying to start writing and you keep thinking to yourself, I don't know what to write about, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, then step number one becomes a lot more important. Brainstorming is just letting ideas come out of your brain, kind of like how rain comes out of the clouds, which is why they call it brainstorming. You're just letting all of your ideas come out of your brain, and then you get to choose whichever one is the best one. So the important thing about brainstorming, people think that brainstorming is really hard. Brainstorming is just getting all of your ideas out, whatever ideas you have. And during brainstorming, you don't have to worry too much about, oh, well, is this a really good idea or not? You're just getting all of your ideas out, because once they're out, then you can choose the best one. You can go through them and look at them and go, oh, no, that one's not very good. Oh, this one's pretty good. I'm going to save this one for later. And you can choose the best one. Kind of like, I know I used to do this when I was little. But for those of you, if you ever went like trick-or-treating and at the end of the night you had your bag of candy and you kind of dump it out and you look through all the candy and you find the best ones first. I know I used to do that. And I would save all the other candies I didn't really like and I would save those for later. But all my favorite ones, I would eat those right away. And brainstorming is kind of like that. You have all your ideas in your brain, you dump them all out, and then you look through them and you see which are the good ones and which are the ones you don't really want. And then you pick the best one to use for your writing. Yes, Jaylene.
Like if you have food and then you save it for later and then you eat it.
Yep, exactly. Although in this case, what we're doing is we're finding the best one and then we're using it right away. So we're finding our best idea and then we pick that one to write about. Okay. Step two is pre-writing. Pre-writing is another one that a lot of people will skip, but it's very, very helpful. Pre-writing helps us from getting to that point where we write, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, and then you say, I don't know what else to say. That's it. That's all I have to write about. When we were like in kindergarten and first grade and things like that, if we wrote just a little bit, like 1 sentence or 2 sentences, that was pretty good. But in fourth grade, 1 or 2 sentences isn't very much. And it doesn't help to explain to our reader or help our reader understand the way that we feel or the opinions that we have. Okay, Bella. So pre-writing is kind of like making a plan. Pre-writing is before you actually start writing your prompt, you take the time and you go, okay, what's my plan? What do I need to talk about? Well, I need to talk about this, and I need to talk about this, and I need to talk about this too. So that way you know when you're writing, you know you're not finished yet if you only talked about thing number one and thing number two. Because then you can remind yourself, oh yeah, there was that third thing that I needed to talk about. Kind of like making a grocery list before you go to the store. Because if you make the grocery list before you go to the store, then you don't end up coming back from Albertsons or Walmart or Sam's or wherever, and you go, oh, we forgot to get the milk, or we forgot to get the cheese, or oh yeah, we needed cereal or toothpaste or whatever. If you have your list, in this case you're pre-writing, you know what you need to talk about and you won't forget something. Number 3, the rough draft. This is where a lot of people stop. They get to their rough draft and they go, oh, that's it. I write it one time and that's it. It's perfect. Done. Ah, beautiful. Look at it. That's not where you want to stop writing. Okay? We've talked about these, and This one I wanted to show you the slide specifically. Okay? It's got a hammer on it. A rough draft is when you write, you finish whatever that prompt was. And again, a lot of people think when you get to that part, you're done. That's it, no more. But that's not what a rough draft is. When you finish writing that first time, there's probably going to be mistakes. And that's true no matter how old you get. I'm not telling you guys that because you're in 4th grade. I'm telling you that because you're people. No matter how old you are. Well, if he's throwing up, Ella, just make sure that he's drinking water. Okay? Probably not eating anything right now because you don't want him to get more sick. Okay? And then just make sure he's near the restroom. That way he doesn't throw up on the floor. Okay. So, rough draft. You don't finish writing and have that be it. Because again, people make mistakes. Whether you're in 4th grade, whether you're in 10th grade, whether you're in college, whether you have a job, people make mistakes all the time. So that first time that you write, you might have forgotten something. You might have misspelled some words or forgotten to put question marks or periods or something. A rough draft is when you finish writing, you have something that you need to look at and find what little mistakes there are. It doesn't mean it's going to be terrible and awful and, ugly. No. It just means that you're going to find whatever mistakes there are, and you're also going to look for places to make it better. What else can I add to my writing that's going to make it better? That's going to make it sound better? That's going to make it make more sense? And they do this with books. Writers that write books, they don't just write one version of the book and go, there, I'm done, that's it. And it's perfect, and they go and they start printing the copies of the books. They have to write multiple versions. And writers are always looking at their own writing and thinking, oh, I don't like the way that sounds. What can I do to make it better? Or, oh, you know what? I'm going to change this part of my story because I have a new idea, a better idea. You don't just write something one time and be done with it. Writers will write whole chapters of their books over and over again, trying to make it as good as possible. Because they know once they're finished, once they've told everybody that's it, this is my writing, that's what they're going to look at. And if they leave a lot of mistakes, or they have a lot of parts that don't make sense, that people aren't going to understand it, or they're not going to like it. And they want whatever writing they share with other people to be the best writing they can have. So that brings us to revising. Revising means that you're going to look at it, your story again. You're going to read it to yourself. And you're going to think, okay, is this the best that I can do? Is there anything that I want to add, that I want to change? Again, it's looking at that rough draft and going, okay, is this really the best that it can be? Is there anything that I want to fix, that I want to change, that I want to be better? And sometimes it's kind of hard to do that to yourself. Sometimes you read it and maybe you're feeling kind of lazy that day. You kind of go, I think it's good enough. But again, revising is about making your writing, about making your story the best that it can be. So even if you see a little mistake, you can fix a little mistake or make something a little bit better. Because if it's a little bit better, it's still better. It's still good. And it's still a good idea. That brings us to the final draft. That final draft, that's the one where you looked at it, you fixed all your mistakes, you made your writing as good as you could. You used up all of your ideas. You made it as good as you possibly could, as perfect as you could make it. And that's when you have your final draft. And that's the one that you want to share with people. Because your final draft is all of your hard work put into one piece of writing. The final draft is normally what you buy like at bookstores. When a writer finishes their book, that's their final draft. But they've looked at it over and over again. 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or however many times it took to make it as good as they possibly could. Till they looked at their writing and they thought to themselves, there's nothing I could make better. There's no more problems. There's no more mistakes. I've used up all of my ideas. This is as good as it can be. As perfect as I can make it. That's my final draft. Now, when we're talking about writing, a lot of times we have a rubric. A rubric is kind of like a set of rules, and it lets us know what do we need to have in our writing. Okay? So usually when we're talking about our writing like in school, a rubric is something the teacher gives us. And the rubric tells you your writing has to have this, and it has to have this, and it has to have this. And the rubric kind of gives you like a checklist. Does my writing have this? Yes. Okay. So it's good there. Does my writing have this? Yes. Check mark. Okay. Does my writing have this? And if you noticed, oh, I don't have that part in it, then you know something you need to go back and fix. Okay. These parts I want to try to do together. Okay. We have brainstorming and final draft, 2 flies, and we have a fly swatter. I want you to take the fly swatter, and who can tell me what step comes first, the brainstorming or the final draft? What fly am I going to put the fly swatter on? Christopher, what step comes first?
Brainstorming.
Brainstorming, so pop. I'm going to put my fly swatter on brainstorming. Because that's the step that comes first when I'm writing. Okay. Same thing. I've got 2 different steps now. And I want to pick which one comes first. Is it the rough draft or the pre-writing? Who can tell me, what do I do first? Rough draft or pre-writing? Yeah, so you go ahead and do that too, Alexa. Who can tell me which one am I going to smack with the fly swatter this time? Which one is first? Okay?
Rough draft.
This one, not rough draft. It's my pre-writing. Remember, pre-writing is like your plan. You have to have a plan before you actually start your writing. If you don't, that's how you end up sometimes forgetting parts of your writing. You might end up finishing and go, oh, I forgot to say this. That pre-writing is your plan. What do I need to talk about? What do I want to talk about in my writing? Do you want to do that before you do your rough draft? What about these 2? Brainstorming and revising. What step comes first? What fly is going to get swatted? Jadine, brainstorming or revising? Revising is the second one. You have to brainstorm first. Brainstorming, again, is when you get all your ideas out of your head so you can pick the best one. You can kind of spread them all out and find your best idea. Revising is what you do after you've already finished writing the first time. When you have that rough draft, revising is when you look at it again and you fix all the little mistakes, you make certain parts a little bit better or a lot better, and you turn it into the best piece of writing you can. So you have to already have the writing done to do your revising. Brainstorming is before you do anything else. You're coming up with your ideas. Yes, Jaylene.
Which one was number 10?
Number 10 was the pre-writing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Revising or rubric? Which one comes first? The revising or the rubric? Kylie?
Revising.
Revising. Revising is when we have our story or our writing already written out and we're looking for those mistakes. Rubric is that checklist. At the end, before we turn it in, we can say, did I put this? Did I put this? Did I put this? Rewriting and final draft. What step is first? Alexa.
Final draft.
This one is pre-writing. Remember, pre-writing is your plan. When you're coming up with or you're making your plan for, okay, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this. So pre-writing happens before you even start writing. It's got that prefix, pre, which means before. Final draft is when you've already written your story, you went back and looked at it, you made all the corrections, all the improvements you possibly could. Final draft is when you say, this is perfect writing. Mwah, perfect, beautiful, fantastic. That's okay. Yes, Jaylene.
I'm ready for the next one.
Oh, you were already getting ready for the next one. Okay. Jaylene, revising, final draft. Which one comes first?
Revising?
Revising comes first. Revising is when we're looking for those mistakes or looking for those places to make our writing better. Final draft means it's already perfect. So you have to fix it before it's perfect. Because if it was already perfect, there'd be nothing to fix. Okay. Rubric or final draft? Who can tell me which one is first? Jadine, rubric or final draft? This one, final draft. Final draft is your perfect piece of writing. That, perfect, beautiful. Rubric is what you check right before you turn it in. Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do? That way you make sure that whatever you turned in is what you needed to do. Okay, last one. Rewriting or revising? Which one comes first? Noah?
Pre-writing.
Pre-writing. Good job. Pre-writing. Pre-writing is our plan. Revising is looking for those mistakes and fixing our writing. Okay? Slide 17. Slide 17 you're going to have for homework tonight. All you're going to do is next to the step, all you have to do is tell me, what do you do for that step? So here next to brainstorming, you're going to tell me, what do you do in brainstorming? How do you do that step? Next to pre-writing, same thing. You're going to tell me, how do you do the pre-writing? Next to the rough draft, you're going to tell me, what is the rough draft? What does that mean? What do you do? Same thing for revising, for the final draft, for the rubric. You're just going to tell me, what do you do for those steps? Okay? That's going to be our homework for tonight. slide 17. And then tomorrow we'll take a look at it before we do the rest of, or the next step for writing. Okay, so this is our homework for tonight.